planet Threxos 9 was little more than a forgotten speck of dust in the Hadean quadrant. An exomoon to a gas giant, Threxos was chosen by the Weyland Qatari Corporation for its remoteness, mineral-rich core, and most importantly, its isolation from the galactic trade lanes. What the miners did not know, as they drilled deep into the crust, was that something ancient slumbered in the depths, something not born of their world. It began with a tremor. Then came the black ichor seeping through fissures in the walls of Sector 7G. Within hours, 3 workers were missing. Within 2 days, Sector 7G was silent. The rescue team sent in never reported back. When a final transmission flickered across the station's master feed, a glistening maw, a shriek that split the comms, and then static, the entire colony descended into chaos. Among the dark, moist tunnels, where the rock had been ripped apart by xenomorphic claws, something stirred. A drone, sleek, black, and deadly, emerged from its cocoon. Born only hours before, its instincts were hardwired. Hunt, evolve, protect the hive. This drone, marked with a jagged crown-like ridge atop its head, was different. It was not just any grunt. Its neural pathways shimmered with complexity. It had memory, ancestral knowledge passed down through the genetic code. And it had ambition. Designated subject GRN-9 by the lone surviving researcher Dr. Emil Vasquez, the drone began exhibiting unusual behavior. Where other xenomorphs obeyed phenomenal commands, GRN-9 adapted. It took initiative, altered its hunting patterns, even began modifying the nesting grounds. Vasquez, hidden deep in the surveillance tunnels, watched with both dread and fascination. "We're witnessing deviation," he recorded in his log. "This is not a soldier. This may be a monarch in the making." Weeks passed. The colony fell silent. No transmissions. No rescue. Just the wind howling across the frozen exomoon plains. Below the surface, GRN-9 expanded its hive, assimilating the remaining humans into new hosts. From their chests, xenomorphs burst, runners, lurkers, praetorians. But all deferred to GRN-9. The hive mind was shifting. It no longer emanated from the old queen. She had been slain in the early days by a malfunctioning sentry drone. Now the lineage had no leader, until GRN-9 stepped in. Vasquez, gaunt and wide-eyed, crawled through vent shafts, documenting everything. His obsession with xenomorph evolution overrode his self-preservation. One day, he left the safety of the ducts and approached the nesting grounds with a mobile hologram projector. GRN-9 did not attack. Studied him. The scientist offered food, protein bars, nutrient gels. GRN-9 accepted. An understanding was forged, however fragile. In the weeks that followed, Vasquez fed the beast and, in return, was spared. The drone began to display maternal behavior, guarding the eggs it laid without fertilization. These eggs, unlike others, required no host. They hatched into specialized subordinates, smaller, faster, telepathically bonded to GRN-9. These were not ordinary xenomorphs. They were the next generation. It was then that Vasquez realized what he was witnessing: parthenogenesis. GRN-9 was transitioning not just in form but in role, from a grunt bred for war to a queen destined for dominion. The transformation was not just biological, it was cognitive. The new queen was forging her empire not through chaos, but control, organization, structure, strategy. On the 73rd day, Vasquez recorded his final log. "They are evolving faster than anticipated. GRN-9 now communicates through complex pheromone matrices and bioluminescent pulses. Yes, she has begun constructing spires, organic towers that hum with strange energy. I fear these structures are a signal, a beacon, If they attract more of her kind, or worse, another queen, the consequences for our galaxy could be catastrophic. But I cannot stop her. I don't want to. He left the recorder on as he walked toward the central chamber. Jaren 9 greeted him, not with hostility, but with silence. She allowed him to approach the heart, a pulsating, blackened orb embedded in the wall of the hive. It was her control center, her womb. Vasquez reached out to touch it, a tear rolling down his cheek, murmuring, "Beautiful." Then the screen went black. Years passed. Wayland Qatari eventually dispatched a Black Ops recovery team to Threxos 9. Their ship entered orbit, detecting faint power signatures and unusual thermal patterns. The team descended, armed with the latest exosuits and neural inhibitors. What they found was a nightmare. Sprawling hives like megastructures, towering over the ice fields. No trace of the original colony remained. The team engaged. The new xenomorphs were unlike any on record. Coordinated, fast, almost predictive in their movements. They used tactics, flanking, ambushes, decoys. The team was slaughtered in hours. One drone, isolated during the battle, recorded a final image before its feed died. A towering creature, sleek and massive. Her carapace adorned with jagged ridges like a crown of thorns. Her eyes shimmered with intelligence. GRN 9 had completed her metamorphosis. Now known in classified Wayland Qatari files as Empress Variant 0, she had risen from the lowest rank of xenomorph society to its apex. Her brood was no longer a swarm, they were a civilization. The Empress began expansion. Using captured human tech and biomechanical graphs, her hivekin constructed living ships. These grotesque vessels merged flesh with metal, powered by the biomechanical hearts of her spires. Her first conquest was a mining station on Ganymede Prime. No survivors. Then, a frontier moon on the edge of the Polaris system. Word spread among smugglers, pirates, and mercenaries of a new threat emerging from the black. The Galactic Coalition, slow to respond, dismissed the threat as isolated outbreaks. But intelligence began to mount. The attacks bore hallmarks of planning. Supply routes were cut, communications disabled, security drones hacked. This was no feral swarm. This was war. A task force, led by Admiral Takuro Han, was assembled. 15 ships, over 1,000 Marines. The target, Hive-world Threxos. Han believed overwhelming force would crush the xenomorphs before they spread. He was wrong. The Empress had prepared. As the fleet approached, organic tendrils from orbit latched onto their vessels. Spore clouds drifted through the void, melting hulls and infecting life support. The Marines deployed to the surface, only to find themselves surrounded by shifting terrain. The ice moved, the walls breathed, and from beneath the ground, the Empress's royal guard emerged. Colossal xenomorphs with armor like obsidian and claws that tore through steel. Only one ship escaped, the Argo's Mercy. Its captain, Lieutenant Saria Knox, transmitted the final log of the failed assault. She knew we were coming. She let us think we had the upper hand. This was never a hive. This was a fortress. Kingdom. She is not just a queen. She is an empress. She remembers. Across the galaxy, planets began locking down. Colonies went dark. Refugees spoke of black beasts with glowing eyes and voices that whispered in dreams. Psychic emissions, some believed. Telepathic reach. The Empress was no longer bound to Threxos. She was everywhere. And yet, amidst the fear and death, a rebellion formed. Former scientists, defected soldiers, AI intelligences, all seeking a way to stop her. They knew brute force would fail. They needed something more. The answer came from a decrypted message, one of Vasquez's old logs, hidden deep in a Wayland Qatari archive. She spared me, because I treated her not as a beast, but as a queen. She learned from me. I don't know if that's mercy or madness, but I do know this. Her greatest strength is not her brood. It's her memory. She remembers everything. And in those memories is her weakness. The rebels devised a plan not to kill the Empress but to unmake her, to corrupt her memory. Using stolen spire tech, they constructed a device that could rewrite neural pheromone patterns. They called it the Severance Key. Their hope, to isolate the Empress's consciousness from her hive. A final strike team was formed. Operatives from every corner of the galaxy. They called themselves the Flameborn. Their leader, Commander Ellen Rowe, was the last survivor of Han's fleet. "We're not here to fight her," Rowe said. "We're here to remind her." The mission was suicide. They pierced Threxos's orbit in stealth shells, landing deep inside the hive. The terrain pulsed with life. Xenomorphs attacked in waves, but the Flameborn pushed through. At the heart of the hive, in a chamber lit by phosphorescent spores, the Empress awaited. She did not attack. She watched. Rowe approached, holding the Severance Key. "Do you remember who you were?" she asked, voice trembling. "Do you remember Vasquez, the scientist who fed you? Do you remember being alone?" The Empress tilted her head. A low hum filled the air. Grief, perhaps, or rage. The moment stretched. Rowe activated the key. The chamber exploded in light. Memory fragments raced through the Empress's mind. Birth, hunt, fear, kindness, fire. She saw herself not as a god, but a creature once touched by compassion. Her mind fractured. The hive shrieked in unison. The signal broke. Across the stars, xenomorphs collapsed. The living ships froze. The expansion halted. The Empress stood still, her carapace cracking with glowing fissures. She let out one final, resonant cry that echoed across Threxos. And then silence. The Flameborn did not return. But their message was clear. The Empress could be stopped, not by force but by memory, by what made her more than a monster. Her lineage rose from Grunt to Queen, but in the end, it was the shadow of humanity that defined her fall. Some say she still lives, buried deep beneath the ice, dreaming of Vasquez and the time before she wore the crown. Others whisper she will rise again, stronger, wiser, with a new brood. But one thing is certain: monsters are made, not born. And some remember,